With the Golden State Warriors lost in the play-in games against the Grizzlies and Lakers, one thing is clear: this team needs some help desperately if they want to get back on top soon. It's no secret that Steph Curry just had one of the best seasons in his career individually, which makes it even worse that this team couldn't even get the 8th seed over the Grizzlies. But with that being said, now is the time for this team to make some moves. With Curry and Klay Thompson in their late prime, the Dubs just need to try and get one more championship out of their duo, but they will not be able to do it unless they trade away their young talent and assets to get some help. Today, we just have to discuss why the Warriors in fact need to make some moves this offseason in order to restore the dynasty, and the top 3 best trades or signings that can get this team the star power they need to put them back in championship talks. But before we get into all that, if you've been enjoying the content and would like to support the channel, it would be absolutely clutch if you subscribed if you're new and join the Woods crew. Fun fact, over 95% of you guys who have been watching the content consistently aren't even subscribed, so if you just hit that sub button below, I could go full time very soon, believe it or not. With all that being said, I'm gonna be honest here, I'm surprised that the Warriors did not make the playoffs. At first, it was looking rough for this team, and you guys all remember what I'm talking about. Oubre and Wiggins could not hit a 3 to save their life, and Curry wasn't playing like the MVP in the early stages of the season. But since then, things have changed for this team in a big way. As you know, Steph Curry stepped up and went on a historic hot streak, and guys like Oubre and Wiggs finally hit their stride with the team. Yet, here we are. The Warriors are out of the playoffs entirely, and they have some big decisions to make about this offseason. In my eyes, it is absolutely necessary that this team makes some moves if they want a chance at a chip. Despite Klay Thompson coming back next year, in my eyes, it just won't be enough to take this team from missing the playoffs to a championship tier just like that. Not to mention that we don't know how Klay will look when he returns because he hasn't played an NBA game in 2 years. To say the least, it will be crucial for this Warriors team to get more star power, because like I always say, that is what leads to wins in the modern day NBA. Luckily for the Warriors, they're perfectly set up to make a move for a star. This team has almost all their picks, a young potential superstar center in James Wiseman, and a big contract in Andrew Wiggins that they can use to match the salary of a star. It just seems like everything is pointing to the Warriors making a big move, especially with the end of Steph Curry's deal coming sooner rather than later. So with that being said, let's just get right into the top 3 best and most realistic trades or signings that the Warriors can make to become a championship contender once again. And there's no better player to start out with than Brandon Ingram of the Pelicans. Now I know, this trade might be shocking to some of you because literally nobody has been talking about it, but in my eyes, this is one of the best deals that the Warriors could make if they wanted some star power at a cheap price. Brandon Ingram has developed into one of the best shot makers and takers in the league, and yes, I just said that because he does not get nearly enough love in New Orleans. With Ingram, he could pretty much play the Kevin Durant role that he was on in the Warriors and be the guy needed on the offensive side of the ball and provide some solid defense at the 4 as well. And if you guys have been watching the Pelicans, you know exactly why this deal is realistic. Because with the Pels running Zion at the point guard where he is most efficient, it takes away from Ingram's game, which is why many believe he will request a trade or the Pelicans will shop him around. Ingram has been great for the Pelicans, but at this point, this team is going all in on building around Zion to convince him to re-sign, and getting another young and upcoming center might just be the move for the Pelicans team to make. The deal would be simple. The Warriors would ship off Andrew Wiggins and James Wiseman for Brandon Ingram and Josh Hart in a sign and trade. Now I know, I didn't include any picks, but honestly, I believe that the Warriors could get this deal done without them, if the Pelicans are truly looking to ship off Ingram. But worst case, they could have thrown at least 1 or 2 firsts in there and easily get the deal done if needed. But for the Warriors, this would be a huge move for them because they would pretty much get the closest player in the league to Kevin Durant, who left them after winning a title and then suffering an injury in their attempt to back-to-back. When KD was on the Warriors, he learned to share the ball and let the Splash Bros shoot when they were hot, but also take big shots when needed or if he had too good of a matchup to pass up. In my eyes, this is exactly what Ingram could do for the Dubs, and they would also get a solid role player in Josh Hart who would add to their already solid depth. For the Pelicans, they get one of the most promising young centers in the league in James Wiseman, who is much more on the timeline of Zion compared to Brandon Ingram. Not to mention, they would also get Wiggins, who could be a solid starter for this team or a bargaining piece in a trade just like what the Warriors are trying to do now. It's been clear for the Pels that Steven Adams just is not it, so if this team got James Wiseman, who has also shown flashes of being able to hit the long-range shots, this would help the spacing for this team in a big way. And if they want, they could trade Wiggins and Steve Adams for more future assets if needed. This trade is honestly a lot more of a gamble for the Pelicans than it is for the Warriors, because we already know what Brandon Ingram has developed into. But if the Pels want to get younger and take a chance on a young center, this is definitely the move to make. And worst case, Wiseman does not become a star and they still have the picks if the Warriors included a couple in this trade. Now I know that most of the disgruntled stars or stars that are expected to demand a trade are guards, so I did have to think a little bit outside of the box because I want to make this as realistic as possible for the Warriors this offseason. And one of the most realistic moves in my eyes is if the Warriors try and get a package where they get a solid star and role players back instead of a bona fide superstar. And in that case, there is no better team to trade with than the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers have been a team for some some time now that just seems like they didn't have what it takes to win at the highest level, but they also weren't a bad team getting good picks every year, so they were in that awkward middle ground where they weren't getting any better or worse. At this point, it is clear that the core they have just doesn't have what it takes to be a contender, which is why many believe the Pacers could blow up their team and go into a full rebuild. And if that's the case, we could very well see this team make a big deal with a team like the Warriors to completely change their roster. It has been rumored for a while now that this team is open to offers for one of the best defending centers in the league in Miles Turner, but now some are even saying that they would deal their 25-year-old all-star in Sabonis if the price is right, and in my eyes, this would be one of the best trades for the Warriors to make. This package would be a big one, and honestly, would shock the league. But in this trade, the Warriors would trade away Andrew Wiggins, James Wiseman, and Kelly Oubre on a sign-and trade, along with 3 first-round picks for Miles Turner, Domantas Sabonis, and Doug McDermott via sign-and trade as well. There is a lot to break down here, but for the Warriors, they would get the guys needed to have a super team starting lineup, with Curry and Klay running the guard, Draymond and Sabonis at the forwards, and Miles Turner at the center position. In my eyes, this is a rare trade where the Warriors would elevate their defense and offense substantially. With Turner being able to protect the rim and be a lob threat, and Sabonis being the third-star option on offense, this would undoubtedly make the Warriors contenders. A perfect balance of defense and offensive firepower is what wins at the highest level in my eyes, and that is exactly what the Warriors would get with this trade, which is why it's worth the picks, because it's almost a guaranteed finals run in the West. On the Pacers side of things, they would get exactly what they need to rebuild and a chance to get some solid draft pieces. What I mean by that is obviously this team gets James Wiseman, who they could rebuild around, but there is a small chance that the Warriors can't win and Curry leaves, which would make the picks the Pacers got a lot more valuable because the Dubs would tank in rankings. The Pacers would also get Wiggs and Oubre, who could be solid pieces for the time being, but if they really want to tank, they could trade TJ Warren and Malcolm Brogdon along with the new Warriors additions for even more assets. This trade is in the case that the Pacers want to switch it up, and they would get their center for the future and some solid pieces if they still want to try and win now. With that being said though, there is one move that the Warriors could still make that would make them instant contenders, and they wouldn't have to risk their future doing so, because they would sign him instead of trading for him. And not only is this player one of the best in the league on both sides of the ball, but if he were to leave his team, the Warriors would be the ideal destination for him. You guessed it, I'm talking about Kawhi Leonard. You guys had to have known, I couldn't make a video like this without mentioning Kawhi, because he is literally the best and most gettable option for the Warriors at the time of making this video. Right now, to say the least, the LA Clippers are struggling against the Utah Jazz, and if they lose this series, there's a very good chance that Kawhi leaves his team and joins another contender, because, well, that's just how he rolls. There are a few things that are clear for Kawhi that have led me to believe that he would go to the Warriors if he left, that being that he made it clear that he wants to be in LA or at least in California. He also wants to win, and he doesn't want drama like some super teams have. Well, just based on the LA thing alone, it's safe to assume that the Lakers and Warriors have the edge against all other teams in the NBA. But with the Lakers locker room having some issues after their loss in the first round this year, this might make the Warriors a lot more attractive for Kawhi compared to the Lakers. Not to mention that the Warriors only need one more piece to be a championship favorite. If Kawhi decides to leave, it's safe to say that the Warriors could very well snag him to restore the dynasty. But if he stays, that's okay too, because this team has all the assets they need to make a blockbuster trade to make them a winning team once again. To say the least, it will be very interesting to see what the Warriors front office does, because with the assets they have, they could make multiple big moves that could shock the league. Let me know down below what you think the Warriors will do and what trade in this video was your favorite. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Woods out.